Snakes are one of the most terrifying animals in the world, but that doesn't mean they always come out on top. Sometimes these slippery creatures use their weight to assert themselves, and in doing so, end up annoying the wrong enemy. These are 20 times snakes messed with the wrong opponent. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's get started. Number 1. Iguana versus snakes. The first one on my list honestly shouldn't have happened the way it did. It's about a young iguana who decides to try to escape from a group of snakes that was quickly approaching. She shouldn't have had any chance of escaping, but with determination and willpower she managed to flee. She even squeezed between some rocks to reach safety. Now, of course, the iguana didn't attack the snakes like in all the other videos, but sometimes defense is the best offense and the greatest mockery of their abilities. And all of this comes from the realm of snakes being completely defeated by their opponents. Number 2. Python versus leopard. Now, this time, it's all the python's fault, as this large snake decided, quite recklessly, to take on a big leopard, thinking it would make a wonderful meal. However, the leopard was very much alive and more than capable of doing whatever it took to handle the snake. The fight between these two was quite intense, and you can see why the leopard gave its all to end the battle. In the end, the leopard wins, but was it really a surprise? For me, it wasn't. Number 3. Secretary bird versus snake. Now, I'm not sure if having a bird as a secretary is a good idea, but you never know, right? The species known as the secretary bird is one of the animals perfectly adapted to kill snakes, and it all has to do with their legs. They have very long legs that not only give them impressive reach, but also the ability to attack enemies, like snakes, with an incredible impact that can be fatal. As you can see here, the secretary bird quickly handles a king cobra, that super deadly snake I mentioned earlier. It kills with precise strikes, which is quite impressive. Number 4. Mother cat versus snake. A quartet of mothers fighting snakes? It doesn't get better than that. This time, we're talking about a mother cat protecting her kittens from a snake that got too close. In this case, some wild cats had made their home in a cave shelter, and the mother noticed the snake approaching and began to protect her kittens. Then, the snake appeared, and the battle began. The mother cat attacked, hissed, leaped, and did much more to make sure the snake knew it wasn't going to take her kittens that day. The fight was intense, with damage on both sides, but in the end, the mother cat emerged victorious. Number 5. Dogs versus snake. Now, how about another dog story? Two brave pet dogs faced off against a huge king cobra that crawled into their yard. The fearless 5-year-old pups, named Motown and Lenny, jumped at the deadly reptile and dared to fight the venomous snake. However, to be fair, they weren't doing this to be aggressive creatures, but rather to protect their owner, who was inside the house at the time. In fact, they tried several times to scare the snake away, but the snake just wouldn't move. Eventually, the owner came out and called emergency services to remove the snake, but it could have been a very different story if the dogs hadn't been there. Number 6. Snakes versus praying mantis. If you were told that a snake would be afraid of an insect, you'd probably assume that the insect must be quite impressive, right? Well, yes and no. It is an impressive insect, but not because of its size, rather because of its skill. I'm talking, of course, about the praying mantis. Although snakes aren't the main item on a mantis's menu, they do face snakes whenever the opportunity arises. Praying mantises are formidable hunters, but patient ones, and they never miss a chance to feed on an animal like that. What's more, they are masters of camouflage and can make stealthy attacks on snakes, using their arms to ensure that the snake's jaws never touch them. They theoretically can't die from this, at least in theory, and remember that mantises are a third of the size of the most common snakes, so for them to kill them or even just fight them is quite impressive, indeed. Number 7. Leopard versus python. Normally, you wouldn't imagine a snake facing off against one of the world's big cats for several reasons. One of the main ones being that most big cats have a size advantage over snakes, and snakes aren't exactly a regular item on their menu. But sometimes, if the meal is available and free, the real question is, why not? Just like what happened with this python and the leopard. And to the snake's credit, it honestly didn't start the fight. It was the leopard that simply came across the creature while it was resting or even sunbathing. As you can see, the leopard is initially curious about what to do with it and eventually decides it wants to eat it. After playing around with the snake for a bit, it goes straight for the head and literally drags the python to its doom, Kids, this is why you should never mess with big cats. They bite. Number 8. Snake versus crows. Here we have a mix of the last two situations because now I'm talking about another team, but this time with birds. In this situation, we have a small snake that, unfortunately, attracted the attention of not one, but two birds. And in this case, it's a pair of crows. This in itself would mean the end for the snake, but fortunately for it, at least in the short term, it manages to fight off the birds in several ways, one of them being to attack, ensuring they can't fully take off, which would lead to its destruction. However, the birds are intelligent and manage to use a team tactic to face the snake, one at a time, ensuring they can stay close to each other, but also that the snake can't escape. This creates a tough situation where the snake is at a disadvantage, a much smaller snake in an open area with no hiding spots, and against two very hungry and determined crows. Number 9. Woodpecker versus snake. Here's another confrontation you probably wouldn't imagine happening. Yes, snakes sometimes live in trees, and some even hunt birds for food, but you wouldn't expect these two creatures to actually battle each other. However, in this case, the woodpecker in question is a mother, so three's a crowd, and this particular situation is quite dramatic. The snake, a yellow-bellied puffing snake, came out of a hole in the tree where the woodpecker was nesting to steal her eggs. Now, naturally, the mother woodpecker isn't going to allow this, unless you think this mother is at a disadvantage. And she's not so much, because remember, a woodpecker's beak is constantly pressed against the hard wood of trees to drill holes for nesting. So, piercing the flesh of a snake, well, that's honestly pretty easy. Or at least it would be if the snake were easily overpowered. Instead, the mother woodpecker was bitten several times, fell from the tree, but got back up to defend her chicks. Now that's love and dedication, ladies and gentlemen. Number 10. Dogs versus king cobra. When talking about some of the deadliest snakes in the world, the king cobra certainly holds a prominent place. It's huge, venomous, and has a bite so powerful that, if it were to bite a human, it could kill them multiple times. They are so potent that a king cobra could even take down an elephant. Given its impressive power, it would be easy to imagine that any living creature attempting to fight a king cobra would have little chance of success. However, there's a little trick in the animal world, and it's called teamwork. Instead of facing the king cobra alone, some dogs decided to use a pack strategy, collaborating to increase their chances of victory. As you'll see, one of the dogs distracts the cobra, while the other, seizing the opportunity, lands a precise bite. This tactic of deception and coordinated attack creates a significant advantage, something the cobra can't predict. With this, the dogs manage to get close to the cobra and even drag it across the ground, keeping the pressure on and not allowing the cobra any space to react. The cobra, despite being powerful and resilient, is eventually overwhelmed by the dog's coordination. Even with all its venom and quick strike abilities, the cobra cannot handle the well-organized offensive from the pack of dogs. Through their combined maneuvers, they truly manage to dominate the situation. It's worth noting that we rarely see tactics so well executed against snakes, as they are ambush predators and rely on a stealthy attack. But when observing this moment, it becomes clear that sometimes collective intelligence and teamwork can be more effective than brute strength. This confrontation is an excellent example of how strategy and unity can be vital, even when facing an adversary as fearsome as the king cobra. Number 11. Mother squirrel versus snake. Here we have another example of a fiercely dedicated mother protecting her young from a predator, and this time, the opponent is none other than a threatening snake. The mother squirrel, seemingly fearless and without hesitation, charges at the snake, even knowing that the odds of success are not in her favor. She could have tried to escape, but the maternal instinct is far stronger than any fear, and honestly, the mother squirrel isn't at all concerned about her own chances of survival as long as her babies are safe. The battle is intense and full of emotion. The mother squirrel not only faces the snake, but chases it through every corner in a fight that spreads across open areas and tree branches. Using her tail cleverly to deflect the snake's attacks and stay ahead, she also employs her quick squirrel reflexes, dodging and doing her best to avoid the deadly strike of the serpent. This is an impressive display of courage and dedication. What could be more beautiful than a mother willing to do anything to protect her young? This moment captures the essence of an unyielding maternal instinct. However, there's a small part of this story that's truly frustrating. While the battle between the mother squirrel and the snake unfolds, there's someone filming the whole thing but doing nothing to help. What's more frustrating is that this person, instead of acting, is simply praising the mother squirrel's courage, talking about how a mother's love is infinite and incomparable, and how this explains the strength of the mother squirrel facing such a dangerous snake. Of course, this is inspiring, but the truth is that even a mother needs help from time to time. It wouldn't hurt to throw a stone to distract the snake and give the squirrel a chance to escape with her babies, right? Sometimes we get so caught up in the story that we forget the basics. Help when needed. While the mother squirrel's courage is praiseworthy, it's clear that she could have used a little help. And the next time we witness something like this, maybe we'll remember that. Even when we see acts of exceptional bravery, small actions can make a huge difference. This expanded version goes into even more detail about the mother squirrel's struggle, reflects on maternal instinct, and critiques the person who was just filming, adding a touch of sensitivity and reflection on what it truly means to help. Number 12. Coastal taipan versus frog. If you're familiar with snake species, you've probably heard of the coastal taipan, one of the most venomous snakes in the world. Its venom is so potent that a single bite can be fatal in less than 24 hours. Because of this, it would be natural to think that few creatures in the animal kingdom would have the courage or strength to take down such a deadly serpent. But in nature, surprises don't stop there. This story is about how a green tree frog, which you might think of as a peaceful and harmless creature, not only faced, but defeated and ate a coastal taipan, and no, I'm not making this up. Jamie Chappell, a renowned snake catcher from Queensland, was the one who witnessed this bizarre event. He found a green tree frog in the process of devouring a coastal taipan. It's not exactly known how the frog managed to capture the snake, but one thing is certain: the frog did it and was consuming the snake with surprising skill. Chappell came upon the scene of a frog with the head of the taipan still hanging from its mouth, a surreal sight that seemed impossible to believe. The strangest part was realizing that, despite the snake still being alive, the taipan's venom wasn't enough to stop it from being eaten. In fact, you could see the snake moving inside the frog's stomach, indicating it was still alive for some time. The most fascinating, and perhaps a little disturbing thing, was that the snake's head wasn't fully swallowed. The frog apparently knew that the snake's head was clinging to its throat and, for some reason, avoided digesting that part. This remains a biological mystery that continues to intrigue many experts. Who would have thought that frogs, often associated with simple and gentle creatures, could accomplish such a feat? Well, it seems appearances can be deceiving, and frogs are far more dangerous than we thought. This story is a reminder of how the animal kingdom is full of surprises and how even the most unexpected creatures can be relentless predators. Number 13. Rattlesnake versus Rex. Now, imagine this scenario. You provoke a bear and it comes after you. Not a good idea, right? Well, that's exactly what happened when some rattlesnakes decided to mess with a lizard that some people call Rex. In the video, we see several rattlesnakes trying to challenge some large lizards, probably thinking they could dominate the situation. But, those naive snakes. If the animal kingdom worked the way they thought, maybe they would have been right. But no, reality is very different. Instead of being intimidated, the Dino and Rex lizards went after the rattlesnakes. And like in a revenge movie, Rex went after the snakes and found them. What happens next is heartbreaking for any snake. Rex begins to devour the rattlesnakes, one after another, as if they were mere appetizers. It's impressive to watch how he enjoys his meal, almost grotesquely. Not only were the snakes completely dominated, but Rex seemed to be having a good time, savoring his meal in a calm and imposing manner. What's more fascinating, and perhaps a little bizarre, is the way this lizard handles the snakes. The rattlesnake's reaction, which probably thought there would be no consequences for their attacks, soon turned into a nightmare, and the lizard simply devoured its opponents as if it were at an all-you-can-eat snake buffet. For the snakes, this was a bitter lesson because, contrary to what they thought, they were not at the top of the food chain that day. Revenge, of course, is a dish best served cold, or, in this case, cold-blooded, as both the snakes and the lizards are cold-blooded animals. And here's the big point. This kind of role reversal is rare to see. Normally, snakes have control of the situation, but what we saw was an impressive turn of events. And worse for the snakes, this was probably the last day they tried to challenge this lizard. Because while snakes are often prey, few ever find themselves so easily dominated and swallowed like that. And for Rex and Dino, they may never find a meal as tasty as those rattlesnakes again. Number 14. Snake versus mother hen. Pay attention to the words I used. It's not just a hen, but a mother hen. As we all know, when it comes to a mother protecting her offspring, she can unleash a strength within herself that she didn't even know she had. The mother hen, with her instinctive courage, doesn't hesitate when she sees her chicks threatened. And as we'll see in this story, she is capable of doing the unthinkable to keep her chicks safe. In a surprising turn of events, the mother hen was next to her chicks when a venomous snake appeared, clearly intending to attack them. Normally, the snake, with its deadly venom, would be an easy threat to eliminate for the chicks, because the strategy would be simple: bite the mother hen, inject her with venom, and then capture the helpless chicks. But instead, the mother hen sprang into action in a fierce, almost irrational manner. Upon seeing the snake approaching, she didn't hesitate for a second, becoming completely enraged. In an act of total protection, the mother hen positioned herself between the snake and her chicks, literally putting her life at risk to protect them. The scene that followed was impressive. The mother hen struck the snake with her wings, making a deafening noise as she attacked with everything she could. She didn't give up, even when the snake seemed to try to dodge or counterattack. The mother hen simply didn't relent. She maintained her fierce defense until the snake, apparently scared and no longer wanting to face that protective fury, finally backed off. It was a confrontation driven purely by instinct. It wasn't a planned or calculated fight. It was the instinct of a mother protecting her children at any cost. This scene serves as a lesson that, when it comes to protecting those we love, even the smallest and seemingly defenseless creature can become an unstoppable force. Anyone who has played The Legend of Zelda knows that messing with birds, especially the protectors, is never a good idea. But this mother hen took that to an entirely new level of incredible. Not only did she defend her chicks, but she did so with a ferocity that likely left the snake completely scared. And now, it's highly likely that this snake will never come near her again, and probably not near any other hen either. Number 15. Python, honey badger, and jackals. Yes, there's a combination of creatures you definitely wouldn't want to encounter in a dark alley. The python, with its ability to crush its prey to death depending on its size, the jackals, known for devouring anything they can find, and of course, the honey badger, an animal that cares about nothing or no one. The situation involving these three animals is, to say the least, intriguing, and as you can see in the video, the story begins with a giant python that had captured a honey badger and was trying to kill it. But then, a jackal appeared out of nowhere and, surprisingly, helped save the honey badger from the snake. This certainly wasn't expected, but it happened. The jackal intervened in the fight, distracting the python just enough for the badger to break free. After this unexpected intervention, the honey badger, with the help of another jackal, finally managed to escape, and impressively, the two jackals and the badger began attacking the python together. At first, it seemed like the collaboration between the three was working well, and the python, seemingly unable to defend itself from the combination of agility and strength of the three animals, was finally caught off guard. With much effort and a teamwork that surprised even the onlookers, the snake was ultimately killed. Go time, badger and jackals! But here comes the twist. At the moment when the python was defeated and the three animals were ready to share the meal, the honey badger, who had already been saved, suddenly changed its attitude. It decided it didn't want to share the snake meat with the jackals. Despite being saved by the jackals' intervention, it didn't hesitate to turn against them, demanding the entire meal for itself. This makes us reflect on justice and gratitude. After all, the jackals had risked their lives to help him, but the honey badger couldn't have cared less. Yes, the video you're watching should be about the snake, but what really matters here is the lesson about dignity and gratitude, or rather, the lack of them. The honey badger, as always, doesn't care. It simply did what it does best, took what it wanted and didn't worry about anyone else. And, well, you already know what happens next. Number 16. Desert cat versus desert cobra. One of the most fascinating things about snakes is that they aren't exclusive to any single habitat. They are spread across every corner of the world, adapting to a wide range of biomes and conditions. You can find them in prairies, tropical forests, dense jungles, even at the bottom of bodies of water, and of course, in arid environments like deserts. These snakes, living in the driest and harshest regions, are often the most deadly, equipped with potent venom and quick strike abilities, allowing them to survive and hunt even in the most extreme conditions. However, the ability to survive in these hostile environments doesn't mean that snakes can underestimate any opponent that crosses their path. After all, to survive, they need to know exactly who they are up against. And this particular desert cobra, with all its skill and lethal venom, made a grave mistake by facing the wrong enemy. Instead of a small and easy prey like a quail or a rat, it encountered a formidable challenger, a desert cat. This cat, small but incredibly agile and fierce, showed no fear as it approached the desert cobra. When the confrontation happened, it was an intense and fascinating battle, as the cat not only had to deal with the cobra's deadly attack skills, but also with its speed and precision. In turn, the cobra, with all its hunting strategy, tried to strike and immobilize its opponent. But the cat, with its impressive agility and sharp senses, was able to dodge the cobra's attacks, leaving it frustrated and vulnerable. What followed was a clash that demonstrated the endurance and cunning of both combatants. As the cobra struck with its characteristic speed, the desert cat responded with quick attacks and evasive maneuvers, taking advantage of the cobra's impatience. The battle was a true test of skill, and in the end, despite the cobra's advantage in venom and strength, it struggled to deal with the agility and dexterity of the cat. This fight between the desert cobra and the desert cat is a clear example of how even the deadliest predators can find their challenge, depending on who they're facing. Nature never fails to surprise, and this battle serves as a reminder that in the animal world, strength isn't always the key to victory. Intelligence and agility can be just as decisive. Number 17. Snake versus guinea pig. To make it clear, although snakes are incredibly skilled predators with a hunting sense so sharp that they often outdo humans in prey detection, that doesn't mean they are the smartest creatures in the animal kingdom. Often, snakes act impulsively, facing opponents that aren't exactly the best match for them, which leads them into situations that can result in major problems. In fact, some snakes have the habit of attacking or consuming things that are clearly not the best choice for them, as we'll see in this curious story. The title of this item might already give you a hint. It's about a snake versus a guinea pig. Yes, you read that right. In a moment of poor decision-making, a snake decided it wanted to feast on a guinea pig. But not just any guinea pig. It chose one weighing a hefty 14 kilograms. That's right, a snake tried to swallow a 14-kilogram guinea pig, thinking the meal would be an easy catch. As many snakes do, it swallowed the prey and began the long digestion process. But the big twist was that this snake made a crucial mistake in choosing its meal. Although the snake managed to swallow the guinea pig and start digesting it slowly, what followed was a series of painful consequences for the snake. Swallowing a meal of that size caused extreme bloating, and worse, it became completely overwhelmed by the weight of the meal. The bloating wasn't just uncomfortable, it also caused immense pain. The snake, now unable to move properly due to the extra weight it was carrying, became completely vulnerable. Perhaps the most humiliating part is that, while the snake was enduring this agony, some people found it in a deplorable state, and instead of helping, they began taking photos and recording videos of the situation, sharing everything on social media. They didn't know exactly what had happened, but they soon figured out the truth. A few days after this grand feast, the snake was unable to survive, likely due to the unbearable pain and stress of trying to digest such a massive meal. When it was opened, the snake revealed the guinea pig inside its body, with its spines deeply embedded in the snake's system, causing even more suffering. This incident serves as an important reminder for animals, as well as for us humans. Sometimes, what you choose to eat can be more problematic than you imagine. Even the most skilled predators can make serious mistakes by underestimating the difficulty of handling certain prey. And in the case of the snake, the lesson was a painful one. Number 18. Mongoose versus Cape cobra. When you think of the most intense rivalries in the animal kingdom, those battles where enemies are truly out to tear pieces from each other, it's common to think of dogs and cats, or even insects versus birds. However, one of the most impressive and truly fierce rivalries happens between the mongoose and snakes, especially when the mongoose faces a Cape cobra. This particular video offers clear evidence of why this rivalry is so intense and passionate. At the start of the confrontation, everything seems calm, with the mongoose simply strolling along in no rush at all. But then, it enters a house and encounters a Cape cobra, and that's when the show begins. What follows is a breathtaking showdown, a battle that rivals any you'd see in documentaries from Discovery Channel or Animal Planet, where both animals face off with impressive intensity and an almost surreal calm. The way the battle unfolds, with both sides measuring their strengths and movements, is fascinating. The mongoose in particular shows an impressive ability to read the cobra's attacks, reacting quickly and precisely. It approaches the snake, seemingly provoking it, forcing it to strike, but the mongoose isn't intimidated. When the cobra tries to bite, it dodges with skill, moving deftly not only to avoid the strike but to reposition itself strategically, leaving the cobra in a disadvantageous position. It's a dance of pure intelligence and instinct. The cobra, on the other hand, doesn't give up, striking with the strength and speed characteristic of its species. But the mongoose seems to always be one step ahead, maintaining an impressive calm even in moments of extreme tension. This isn't just a physical fight, but a mental duel, where every movement and every decision can be crucial to survival. The only thing that could have made this clash even more perfect would have been if the mongoose had followed its master's advice and positioned itself higher, which would have given it an even greater advantage. Even so, this confrontation is already a brilliant example of cunning and courage in action. Number 19. Kangaroo rats versus rattlesnakes. Here's something you probably wouldn't hear in a casual conversation. Kangaroo rats. Yes, you read that right. Kangaroo rats. I know it might sound like a strange combination, but let me explain. Now, if you're imagining that these rats have some connection to kangaroos and are therefore natural boxers, I can assure you that idea is far from the truth. However, if you think these rats have huge, powerful hind legs capable of kicking a rattlesnake so hard that the snake can't even react, then you're definitely on the right track. In reality, kangaroo rats, which are a fascinating species, possess the impressive ability to use their hind legs extremely effectively when confronted by snakes. These rats are known for their agility and skill in escaping predators, and the fact that they live in areas of California, where rattlesnakes are common, provides them with an evolutionary advantage. When faced with a snake, kangaroo rats can leap with astounding speed, often covering 7 to 8 times the length of their body, leaving the snake to bite nothing but air, unable to even touch them. Scientists have studied this reaction power and the impact of the rat's hind legs, and the results are surprising. These rodents can react so quickly, hitting the rattlesnake's head with such force that they send the snake flying, disorienting it. This shows a clear example of evolution in action, because unlike other rats that would basically be an easy meal for most snakes, kangaroo rats have developed an effective way to defend themselves and even oppose the predator efficiently. Although I still believe that rats, in general, are a true nuisance on the planet, I have to admit that in this case, these rats deserve a round of applause. Not only have they evolved to survive, but also to fight if necessary. And, honestly, even if we don't admire them as creatures, we have to recognize when nature makes them overcome even the most feared predators. Number 20. Snake versus turtle. The phrase, "this snake messed with the wrong turtle," is definitely not something you hear often, and that's because when you think of turtles, the last thing that comes to mind is the idea of an aggressor. Usually, these creatures are seen more as peaceful and defensive beings that, when faced with a threat, protect themselves inside their shells, seeking to shield themselves from danger. However, as this snake would painfully find out, the fact that a turtle is hidden inside its shell doesn't mean it's defenseless or harmless. In this particular attack, the snake encountered a turtle in its shell and, seemingly, thought it would have an easy meal, as many snakes are opportunistic predators. Based on the fact that the shell was fully retracted, it made what seemed to be the right move. The snake's body could easily slip inside the shell, and that's exactly what it tried to do. But as many know, things don't always go as expected. The problem is that the turtle wasn't intimidated. When the snake put its head inside the shell, it was immediately bitten fiercely. What followed was a bite so powerful that the snake was thrown back, its body writhing in pain. A reaction quite unexpected, considering that snakes, unlike other animals, don't typically make sounds or scream, or do they? That's an interesting question that, who knows, we might explore someday. Anyway, the snake quickly realized it was in a much more complicated situation than it had imagined, and, in no time, fled, not looking back, determined never to mess with a turtle again. This story serves as a lesson for everyone, not just humans, but also for snakes. And you know who you are, snakes. Just because you're in a defensive mode doesn't mean you can't protect yourself with strength when necessary. Never underestimate those who are quiet or seemingly harmless, because real strength can come from where you least expect it. This is something snakes, especially those out there on the prowl, should consider. And who knows, maybe you could have learned this lesson earlier by playing a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, Snake, the choice is yours. Are you ready for the next challenge? Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Don't forget to check out other interesting content appearing on your screen right now. And I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.